Yeah, check out my music. Go on YouTube and look up BB Angel. Check out 5%. That's a song of mine that's been doing real nice. I've got a couple music videos out. You can look up BB Angel Intro Freestyle. I've got a new album dropping this month, May 25. I just dropped an album a month or two ago now, I think two, called 2025 BB Angel. Yeah, check it out. Should be nice. Enjoy making music. I enjoy making pods, and I enjoy making you smile. Connor should be back in any second now, and we'll try to get his takes on a couple more interesting topics, some questions I got, and he's one of my good friends as well as Jordan, so we'll be having them back on, and I'm gonna try to get them both on for one. I'll pitch that when he gets back in here. But it's a good time. I hope you're having a good time. We're having a good time. Part two, part four, it don't matter. Just know that we're hardcore park and we're having fun. I'm doing great. Are you? Oh, hold on. Technical difficulties. What's going on? Oh, we messed up the passcode. Oh no. S F eight X X. We off Zan X. And made a song one time with Jordan, our friends Larry and Garrett. And at the time, I don't even know if we were on Xanax. I think we might have been on Trazodone somebody had gotten. We were in high school. And we had made a song. Hello.
Yep. What?
Good, you're good.
Well,
Welcome
here
back.
we go. I got a real good one for the algorithm.
Okay, turn the phone sideways so we can get the algorithm.
Yeah, that jelly bean, bro.
Mr. Beans. Whoa, Mr. Bean, though. Okay, I forget exactly where we left off, so let me look up my questions. Oh, yeah, how do you feel? What's your take on ancient depictions of aliens, like the drawings on the pyramids and things like that, like you were talking about on the Incas, but more legitimate ones.
Hmm. There we go. Um,
Love it.
dude. So I think it's interesting. Like, I know you were talking about the Hindu books, and they straight up have like described the like spacecraft and like wars between spacecraft. But as far as like actual physical depictions, I the Egyptian stuff usually, I mean, when I actually started learning about Egyptology, I was like, oh no, there's like symbolism in them being larger and their heads being oblong. Like those are things that have cultural relevance within Egyptian society. So there's a lot of the things that can be kind of explained in terms of that, but um yeah, and then yeah, there. I want to say one of the Incan stones also had, it kind of looked like a guy wearing a space suit. I just think that if we did see aliens, kind of what I was saying earlier, it would be such a hyper advanced thing that I don't think that they would have um the expression of like nuts and bolts. Like I don't think their spacesuits or their spacecraft are necessarily physical, tangible, mechanical things. I
No,
think that
I've heard that they might even be like the craft might even be a like living being of its own.
right, like something like Nope, where it's like they themselves are semi biological, or and that is one of the theories, is that like the grays are sort of the biomechanical drones operated by the tall whites, and like we have even kind of come down to that realization with our own space travel, that like we as flesh and body will never travel the stars. If we do, it's going to be on generation ships where you get on it and your children's children arrive at their destination, whether it's like a colony planet or, you
Right.
know.
I also don't think that a lot of these predictions had like the knowledge, the foresight, I guess, to account for like potentially figuring out quantum computing and how that could like accelerate, our progress.
Right. Because I mean, I was even just watching a movie a couple days ago, Moonfall. I don't know if you saw it. It was like relatively it was like the last 2 years or so that it came out. And
On Netflix, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I've heard of it.
it's like basic, it's like hollow moon shit, that the moon was a satellite constructed. Because yeah, dude, I think there you can find correlations with a lot of things that seem too perfect. Like that movie brings up that the moon is exactly the right size and the right distance from the sun, so that eclipses can be a thing, and for a lunar eclipse to even be possible, like how many variables have to exist for even just that circumstance. And yeah, not to rely too much on this movie to make my point, but it's just like you can find it's that mistaken of like correlation and causation, like just because things seem to be one way, but then it's hard because that is um kind of what I believe when it comes to aliens. Like I don't think that there is something that I can physically point to and be like, this is concrete proof
Right.
that there are aliens or have been aliens. But then I kind of think that there's no way you wouldn't assume that.
Few weeks
But
ago, we had Army Ensign Calvin Nago on, and he said that even if the government and like it was definitely true, the government had more than like everything, and it wouldn't really matter if like they did tell or not. Calvin believes that humanity as a whole will never and could never be ready for the knowledge that they're not the like smartest being in the universe.
I don't think it's the necessarily it's the pride or intelligence about being the smartest. I think the real issue is that um like 80% of the people learning about aliens are going to learn that their religion is incorrect, because I don't see how Judaism, Christianity, Islam, like any Buddhism, any major religion, it like is pretty much moot, right? Like what is the point of God creating us in his own image if he also just made aliens that are more advanced
I
than
think
us? And
I saw a thing about this. I forget if it was like Tucker Carlson or who, but I believe it. I forget if it was like some Christian guy talking about how they could like have room for like how they could accept or have something that says that would be okay. But I think it was Hindus. They said that like in Hindu there's no that's no different than like what the Hindu scriptures and texts like already talk about, that like there are other worlds and other beings.
well, and there are even like, Scientology is a religion, like legally, and
Mm.
there are sects of the LDS that truly believe that God lives on a planet like outside of our solar system. Like they're
Hmm.
those those are, I don't know. I
It's out
I
there.
yeah, I really think that there are aliens, that the government knows about them and has had interactions with them, whether or not they have just had, yeah, like UFO experiences and sort of like flyby stuff, or whether or not like something actually crashed and they got a hold of material. Um, the thing that really interests me is like the whole thing with what's going on with all the drone stuff that they have seen. And like, I don't know if you've seen the videos that have come out recently, but just like very uh, insane maneuvers, and just the number of it, I like wonder how much of it is just like now because of disclosure, governments are like, oh, this is a great way to like sow disinformation and perform psyops and like discredit true news stories and stuff. So uh I have this mixed bag of whether I like want to do research or just want to tune stuff out. But then because of algorithms, I see shit on my feed regardless. But yeah, the stuff that's happening right now, I'm like, it's so prevalent. It's either got to be government intentionally leaking information, or them just trying to fuck with us like intentionally.
Yeah. I saw a video or a reel of Lil Wayne saying he had just like very recently, he had just gotten back from, I believe it was Malaysia. He said it was either Malaysia or like Thailand. And he said he had like this suite that was like right on the beach, right on the water. He's like, and like the first few nights, he said it was like all black all night. It'd be like super dark. You could like damn near see more stars than you could see from like anywhere I'd ever seen. He said, and then one night, like a few nights before I leave, he says, I look out and it's like way out there, like you see it's like way out in the water, probably like a mile or like as far out as you can really see almost. He says there's like these bright ass lights and it's like a fucking city's out there in the middle of the water. And he's like, I'm freaking out. He's like, I was smoking, I'm watching that shit. He's like, so the next day, like I asked people and I asked like the desk people, I'm like, is that like a thing? Did anyone like, is there a cruise ship or something? Is there a base or like some sort of milk? They said, no, no, there's nothing out there. Like, yeah, some people have reported seeing that before, but we don't know what it is. He's like, and I didn't talk about it from that moment on. He's like, I waited till I got back home.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that like we've been seeing weird shit in the skies and in water for so many hundreds of years.
Water one,
Like,
I hadn't heard about real water. Like I figured it was more prevalent to have like underwater anomalies than air really, but you don't really ever hear of any. And then I heard of like I think it was Lou Elizondo on the Area 52 podcast. He was talking about like the most, I guess the most famous underwater one. There's like I think it was off the coast of Brazil or somewhere in South America. They have an offshore oil rig that's like fairly close to land. And there's like a guy down by like the ladder, and somebody's like filming it, or they have a camera on the side, and you just see this thing that's like it looks almost like a giant black whale or a blue whale underneath. But when it starts going by, bruh, it goes by for like a minute and a half. It just keeps going and going and going. And it's bigger than the whole oil rig.
Yeah, dude. The water stuff is really um that's where, like, yeah, like you said, you assume that most would be like aerial stuff, but if I remember right, yeah, the like vast majority are actually like USOs, or unidentified submersible objects. And then the weird shit really to me is the when, because they'll in some of the more recent disclosures, there's been videos of things going into water at speeds that, like, even if it was a drone, like, when you throw a rock into water, it slows down because water and air have massively different densities and different properties, and you cannot go through air the same way that you can with water. But the USOs that they've seen, that, like, I really think, yeah, either have some kind of like matter manipulation or gravity manipulation, because they'll enter and exit water at the exact same speed. Like, it's not fucking there, which is
I've seen that
crazy.
too. Yeah, they'll like they'll go like a foot above the water, and then they'll like go underwater and then just like zoom up out. Yeah.
Right. No, yeah. And then it's like maybe there is a way of doing that with a missile or something, like through like Leidenfrost effect and like other, uh scientific principles. But then, yeah, the things will like start and stop and hover and really just seem, I don't know, like playful. It's That's kind of the most terrifying part, is they just like are just kind of like fucking around, like going in and out of the ocean at speeds that would kill any human pilot or any. Yeah, it's insane. But I don't know. I think, for to elude what Calvin said, yeah, I think people aren't ready for it just because it would change so much of what they believe about our presence in the world
Calvin
and
thinks
in
that it
our.
would be chaos.
Right. It's what I think it is enough people haven't seen. I forget what it is. I think it's called Little Blue Dot, but it's like a famous photo from space, that, like, they took on one of the earlier space voyages, and it's just a picture of the earth against the blackness of space, and you truly forget how tiny and insignificant our little rock is. And that, no, yeah, dude, I for sure, like, this probably exists somewhere in space. We don't want to confront that, because what does that say about Jesus, you know this is where you fade in a good question mark
You
logo in your editing
know,
to imply that Jesus is a pedophilic jelly bean.
pedophilic jelly bean, Parappa the Rappa.
Yeah.
Okay, well, also, I guess, kind of tied to aliens. How do you feel about Antarctica?
Just, how do I feel? The continent. it's,
Yeah.
I can tell you
What do you know
that.
about it? What do you know about the Antarctic parts of Antarctica that, get green during the summer? What do you know about directed energy weapons? what do you know about apparently they do these like core sample drillings that's what they tell the scientists that they have that they're there to do, but apparently these core samples, the way they like get them by drilling into the ice and shit, causes other things to happen that they use allegedly as directed energy weapons. I don't know. I've heard a lot of stuff.
I don't know anything about Antarctica, to be honest with you, but I have heard from my close friend that works often in the Arctic that due to global warming, that they used to not ever see other ships like when they would go to the Arctic Circle because yeah, they're on there doing scientific expeditions, so they're traveling to the very most remote parts of it. And yeah, he said that they, for his entire career, he would see like maybe one or two ships on a trip. And now when they go out to the Arctic Circle, they see Russian ships and Chinese ships
Hmm.
because everyone's trying to map the new trade routes that are opening as the ice melts because of fucking global warming. That soon there's going to be a new, essentially a shortcut
Yeah.
across, the planet through the Arctic Circle, and all the ships are like eagerly trying to discover it and claim it as quickly as they can. So that's mostly depressing more than it is like wooey woo. Just knowing that there's polar bears falling into the water. Oh, have you heard about the Pisleys, dude?
What's a Pizzly?
Again, because of global warming, polar bears are moving south, and they're moving south to find food because there's not, an environment for seals and shit in the Arctic. So they're following the food south, and then they're running into grizzly bears, and they're close enough that they can hybridize
Yeah,
and
yeah.
make a pisley, or they're also called like uh, growly ground bears or something. But yeah, the it basically is the size and strength of a brown bear, but with the hyper intelligence and aggressiveness of a polar bear. And then they, yeah, are just unleashed on Canadian environments and destroy things even more so than the brown bears normally did.
It sounds like they adapted.
No, and they're honestly cute as fuck because they look like giant teddy bears because they're like tan colored because it's the brown and the white.
They're absorbing more heat. Than-
Dude, no, yeah, I think there's going to be, especially with how drastically, I mean, we're even seeing seasons change in our lifetime. I think there's going to be some weird shit that starts to happen, but what can we do?
Live. Enjoy it to the best of our ability.
No, yeah, it is wild. In the Bay Area, a bunch of the refineries are straight up closing down because they like can't afford to operate in California anymore.
Thank God, I did not like loving Benicia and loving the city that I was living in and realizing that I'm like in the crosswind of four fucking refineries.
No, yeah.
That was death. But let's get a little psychological with this, more based. Do you believe in free will?
Oh,
Because you
that's
did
hard.
convince me as a young man that there are no coincidences, and that racked my brain for a while. And I don't know how into free will I am, or into, believing that there is free will and thought.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like there isn't. Um, the like I'm not, I'm more of a biologist and a chemist than I am a physicist, but I know from like quantum physics that that is like one of the kind of crux of string theory and like what is free will if it's all just quarks and subparticles and shit.
Right.
Um, but on like a macro scale, I feel in charge of my choices. Um, I think as a thought exercise, I do think that free will might be an illusion in the same way that just existence might be a illusion and a simulation or the matrix or whatever you want to call it. But kind of concerning yourself with that just like either causes yourself undue stress, um whereas like I think the Buddhist perspective of just like accepting that everything's an illusion and a lie, um, but not using that as because what I really worry about is people using that as an excuse to be shitty people and make shitty choices. And I definitely have seen that. So I think that if you are gonna play with the idea of free will, it has to at least have stipulations of if it's all fake, then I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
It's
No, that's good.
the way I see it as is I look downly on the people that use that excuse in the same way that I see people that you know if you're gonna play a game and kill every NPC in the game and then just reload the save, like you have to just play the game now with all the NPCs dead because you chose to do that. So,
Oblivion
but
problems.
but every time I play Fallout 4 and I do Far Harbor, I blow up the sub and kill everyone in the nucleus, and I turn off the wind machines and kill that whole fucking island. But does that make me a sociopath? I don't think so.
Maybe on a micro scale,
Yeah.
or at least you want to see what the sociopath might be experiencing at certain times. But to get even further into physics, in your opinion, what is to you reality? This one broke Jordan.
Oof. So this is where God, I wish I was better read at times, but I think it's Plato, the that parable of the man that lives his entire life looking at a cave wall that is only seeing like the reflections and shapes and shadows on the cave wall and doesn't actually have like a concept of reality. Like the human brain is so fragile, and then when you consider like okay, for you to perceive reality you have to have this perfect little chemical balance of the right hormones, the right um you know ATP and immuno response things, and just the complexity of what it is to be a functional human being with consciousness, and that even in that system is inherent to like I'm looking at Mr. Jellybean, but I'm not seeing Mr. Jellybean as he sees off the page. I'm seeing a 12 microsecond delay of the photons reflecting off the page onto my eye. Like if in the same way, if I start to ask, like, is this reality real, or do I have free will, or do I perceive reality correctly, it's kind of like you're taking a game and you're stripping away lines of code. At some point it doesn't become a functional game anymore. You're Whether you're stripping away layers, it's mental illness, or the whatever is impeding you from perceiving reality, a block in your brain, a drug, an addiction, a bad thought cycle. um, it's we're such intricate machines, and the system is so inherently flawed itself, that I think that the people that perceive everything perfectly and are well-adjusted people, um I think they're in the minority. um This again isn't an answer to your question, but just kind of something I want to talk about. There was this study. I don't remember who did the study or when, but I fucking love it so much. Is they took a light switch, and the light switch went to a light, right? And then they had a bunch of people come in and try and use, they like told them the experiment was something completely different, but in the waiting room of the experiment, essentially they're like, oh yeah, can you turn on the lights? The lights didn't work. They were randomly hooked up to different wires, so the switch had nothing to do with the lights. Sometimes they came on, sometimes they didn't. It was completely random. Normal, healthy, well adjusted people that went into the study came out just being like, I don't know, that light switch was crazy. Like, I don't know what was happening. Um, but then people that went into the study that had uh, chronic histories or diagnosis of depression immediately were like, yeah, it was a broken light switch. Like, your light switch is fucked up. I think there is something to be said about perceiving reality too well, and that making you sick in a way. Not that reality is a sickness, but I think that in a normal, healthy person, I think people will ignore or change or manipulate their reality, and it's a false sense of pride that we have, that because someone is fully hallucinating, that they have less of a grip on reality than someone that is so anxiety ridden they need constant medication to get out of bed. Like, I don't think that those two people are very different from each other. I think they have more similarities than they do differences.
You turn the
um
page or at least get the word rapey off camera. Well, it was only rap I could that's better. I'm sorry.
but
Go on.
um but yeah, dude, I mean, in our circle of acquaintances, we've had various people of spectrum of mood and mental disorders. And I don't know. I think it's interesting that people, it all comes down to experience and what you've experienced in life. And I think a lot of those things give you experience and knowledge that make you empathetic and more well-rounded person. I met way too many people in my life that just seemed so fragile because they had grown up in little bubbles and never been screamed at by a schizophrenic person in the street.
Right. To me, I said this last week too. To me, reality is the universe or whatever experiencing itself subjectively from many different angles. And then when you die, you go back into the one and then back out to
So you're
the
saying like egg theory, right?
what's egg theory? I'm not familiar with it.
Egg theory is that when you die, you go back and you're reborn, and that everyone in the entire world has always been you, and that you're essentially a young god that is like you're at the same time you're Cleopatra, you're Hitler, you're
I
Mussolini.
believe it's kind of like that episode of Rick and Morty with Unity.
Yeah. But
I
yeah,
think
the idea
I
is
think it's kind of like Unity where we're all one, but much less like the Unity episode in the sense that nobody is really aware that they are that because they would feel too crazy, I guess, to not have the individualism that you have being a person.
well, the end point of egg theory is that the lie is individualism, and that the whole point of us having these different lives and these different experiences and not remembering them and doing things over and reincarnation is because we're supposed to be learning empathy for each other and for the to essentially ascend to like a higher, whether it's like form of reality, whether this whole like essentially this whole universe could just be a training model
Yeah,
for or a sandbox where we are growing and developing into whatever our highest form of self is, which I don't know.
I'd never heard of egg theory before, but that sounds exactly like what I believe.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's that it's you're a god that's constantly going through reincarnation as you grow to become a unified sense of self, but you can only do that once you know what it is to be a good person, what it is to be a bad person, to act selfishly and selflessly. And it is interesting because I mean we're kind of doing that same thing with AI now. Is we're realizing that the main issue is just having enough material to train them. And there's I don't remember where it was, but I remember seeing this thing that was saying that a lot of the AI models are going to struggle in the next coming months and years because they're running out of material to feed into them, and that's how they continuously improve and become smarter. So
Bro,
they're like
been
running out of
doubling in power and intelligence every, I believe it's 5.7 months. And that's the rate that they're expected to stay at for the
right.
foreseeable future.
Because yeah, I don't know. Holy shit! I'm just realizing after talking to you this whole time that do you know who voices Mr. Jellybean?
No.
It's SpongeBob.
Oh, forget
It's
that guy.
it's Tom Kenny, dude.
Tom Kenny, yes, Patchy the Pirate.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Um yeah, it's hard thinking about what the nature of reality is, and
Yeah.
like I've definitely taken substances that made me feel connected to the universe and like I had lived a thousand lives, but I haven't
I have
felt that way without a
thousand
substance.
lives waiting for you.
Right. So I don't know. Either we're still years off from our highest form, or I don't know. I do think there's a beautiful symmetry in it that, you know, because I do think one of the truest things is that when they always say like you don't hate other people, you hate aspects of yourself that you see in other people. I do think that's very true, and I think that's like kind of the core of egg theory is like you have to learn that you hate how similar you are to everyone, not how different you are.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why you don't want to really feel like you're all one all the time.
exactly.
We're
So,
here to figure out the differences and to embrace those in creative or whatever positive ways. Oh, a good one I had is because we got a minute and a half left. We got to close it up. Are you part of the world, or is the world part of you? Kind of also egg theory now that you mentioned it.
dude, I feel in a lot of ways I mean similar to our late mutual friend, I think I have lived in spite of the world. I think there have been a lot of things that should have taken me off this planet long ago, and the fact that I remain and still thrive is incredible in it of itself. But yeah, dude, I think when I think of the world, I see it as this other entity that, yeah, I see myself as originating from, but it has felt very, I don't know, unfamiliar to me, which is a weird thing to say about the planet that you're a part of. But I also think that's not an uncommon experience. I think a lot of people feel kind of lost and like they don't belong. But then what does that say inherently about like us as a species and what I think it has a lot to do with how we treat our planet and treat our environments because it always seems like humans have